Hello and welcome to episode 180 of the Talking Wednesday podcast. There's probably a darts reference in there somewhere, but it's Dex and Punk joining you today. Jake put the wrong title of the wrong number in there, and he's actually just put 1,180. So if we make it there, then we've been doing something right, but I very much doubt it we're going to make it over 1,000 episodes, Jake. But yes, how has your week been, my friend?
Oh, it's been terrible. I got ill Monday. No, I didn't. I got ill Tuesday, Wednesday. Basically, if you're going to come to someone's house and you know that you have been ill, there's a reason why it's called the 48-hour rule. Please stick to it, especially when there's a young child involved. It's not been fun. We'd all pretty much had it, apart from my eldest, which is good. She went and saw a musical on Friday. She went and saw Six. She loved it, and she's now doing like double dancing. But it's been busy. But it's like I had people turn around and say, "Why are you still doing video when you're ill?" Like even when you're ill, you've done this before, where you feel naff and you're still gonna get a content out, kind of thing, because of the algorithm. And there were bits that like I'd do the video, I was like, oh, smile. At the end, and I'll literally just be on the floor. Be like going,
yeah, it's also one of those things that it's unlike my day work. I can coast through this a little bit more if I am poorlier, because you sat down.
Yeah.
You can sort of like then just, I remember when I was recovering from the Rona that time, we kind of just, I was on the mute button for when I was coughing, and then afterwards I just collapsed for an hour, sort of thing. You can get the content out.
Yeah. It's like, well, it reminds me when we did that Christmas special where I was just dead.
Yeah, that was horrific.
I was just dead. And the thing is, it's been one of those weeks where you realise how I already get bad anyway due to, well, Jake's on about his F&D again. But I already get it because of my chronic illness anyway, where I don't know when I'm ill or what my actual chronic illness playing up. But I knew what this was like properly ill. So I was like, okay, this is an issue. But it's weird because we start the season next week, which feels odd. But how's your week been?
It's been up and down, some bits sort of coming out of the blue, some things to think about for the future. But yeah, all right. I've been managing to keep my exercise program up a little bit more, eating a little bit better, that sort of thing. There is a huge spot on my forehead, which you can all see if you're a video watcher. So I'm just pointing it out, and it's doing my head in. It's like, oh yeah, I'll actually look after, like wash my face and do things like that. And then all of a sudden, because you're exercising, a spot emerges and you're like, lovely, right on camera, right in the shine as well. So if you hadn't noticed that, that's where it is. But yeah, no, I have been playing, I finished Resident Evil 4. I'm currently platinuming that in my free time sort of thing. Me and Sophie are having a little bit of a, she's taking some time off work because I've got some time off work, and we're going to actually do sort of like a little bit of sightseeing and things like that around. We moved to an area and didn't really do much in it, so we're going to go and see the local things, do a little bit of that. So that should be nice. But yeah, it's been all right, apart from a couple of ups and downs, as I said. But yeah, we're obviously going to talk about a testimonial and stuff like that. I've been thinking about content plans for next year. Quite excited about the season starting. We're obviously putting together a schedule for watch-alongs and things like that. So it's all exciting at the minute.
I'll be honest, it'd be really interesting when me and you talk. We've both been... I'll get this out of the way now. Me and Dex are not competing against each other. Never been the case in the slightest. It's always been in conjunction with each other's channels. Me and you have conversations in the background about each other's stuff, and we try and help each other along the way, kind of thing.
I don't get this view where people think that like, oh, why wouldn't you just both put the content out at the same time, sort of thing, and just go? And I'm like, because we we want to give each other the sort of breathing room to be like, our audience is shared in a lot of ways. So it's like, we don't want to, for example, if me and Jake live stream at the same time, it'd be like, we would be giving people a choice, which is good in some ways because people can have choice. But in our community, it's easy if we can collaborate or do something or split things because we do a podcast together. So people want to see both of us. There's some people that don't want to see you. There's some people that don't want to see me. So they'd benefit from it. But a large thing we've done with the podcast is built it together, you know? So there's that.
Like on a Sunday, you'll notice that I will try and not put a video out. I'll either put it up before the podcast go live or I'll wait until like 4 or 5 o'clock. So the podcast gets the thing. The thing is, we
have 1,000 videos out a week anyway. So.
Don't. I went through, you know how you sometimes like get a monthly thing that says how many videos and stuff you do, like a recap. I think in July it was 85 videos I put out for the month. And I was like, Jesus, that's ridiculous.
I have just realised that our kickoff against Plymouth is at 4 o'clock and I didn't think it was at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a late one. It's 4 o'clock, and then it's and we'll be going straight.
We should still go straight into the podcast. We'll do it. We'll figure it. It's just going to be a long Sunday. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because you're doing just a bit of a heads up for the people that are listening to the podcast, the full version. There's actually quite a lot of content from me and Punk around that time because I'm covering. Plymouth, then Punk's going to be covering Hull, then I'm going to be covering Sunderland, then Punk's going to be covering Leeds, and that's what we've planned out so far. So, in a nice split between the channels there, but it's all going to be in partnership with Talking Wednesday stuff. Where we can, we'll try and get other members of the podcast involved, not for the actual watch-alongs, but maybe like little clips and things like that. We're going to try and do a little bit more of that this year, but there's plenty of stuff to come from us there. But basically, the next 2 Sundays after this are going to be live podcast days, basically.
Yeah,
because we're gonna go live after the fixtures. So that's exciting.
It's weird because we built the entire the podcast around like Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs, and now they've disappeared.
And they've moved them all, yeah, that is a thing.
We had this whole thing. Hey, we got a new thing. We're gonna go back to the old schedule on Saturday, and the guy had gone.
No, because genuinely we were like, I'll tell you what then. So the matches that we aren't going to, let's take some more matches this year, which is helpful to our bank balance as well because of the ticket prices. Let's go for the old like Rona days coverage where we were all locked down, and let's cover the matches and do all of that on the weekend. And it's great. It gives us our weekend schedule and we can get into a routine. And then Sky just went, nah, let's move everything. Which it doesn't affect the watch along so much, but it does affect the podcast for it because it's where they start to move stuff to like Friday nights at like 8 o'clock kickoffs and stuff like that, or late kickoffs, because then it becomes a case of, well, we're not going to do the podcast after that match.
Well, the thing is,
too late.
This is the other thing. That then affects my content because I normally do a roundup on a Friday night.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's weird because I looked at it all and the whole guy thing and the fixture things. I hate it because it's taking away the game from people who normally are on shifts where they will be able to plan things. People now on shift cannot plan anything because it's all gone to pot. It's even worse if you're in League One and League Two because they've now got Thursday night kickoff games in the evening. Like that gotta be horrific. Especially if you're away somewhere and you're doing a Thursday night kickoff. I know some people say it's only the same as like a Tuesday or Wednesday, but normally Thursday, Friday are normally okay to not have a kickoff, if that makes sense. So it's a weird one putting it there. But the thing is, we set a schedule, we have it in, we've done pretty damn well as sticking to how the schedule has been. Like I think we did really well to keep it going on that kind of set thing. And when we did change it, we had to change it due to other commitment we both had. But I think what we do well is that we're always quite open to change things around if we can do last minute.
Yeah, I think basically the fact that we've tried to be organised has just completely backfired on us this year, which is lovely.
Yeah. It's like we tried.
Yeah, we tried. We'll see what happens. But yes, we've got football to talk about this week for the first, well, not for the first time, but like we actually can go into what will be the norm for it.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday have played a game. It's not obviously a league game, but it was Liam Palmer's testimonial. So congrats to Liam. Obviously, we've mentioned that previously. Great servant to the club.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit more about the match itself. So what did you think to this one against a newly promoted La Liga side?
I thought there were some really good players of football. There's definitely a big improvement from where Danny took over to now. Like you can see everything he was trying to do at the beginning when he first came in is exactly what we're doing now, but much faster, slicker. You can see the balls that they're doing, like the little passes, it keeping the ball a little bit better. I thought when we did go forward, there were some great chances, but we are missing a massive hole up front as a number 9 in general, even depending on whoever we get.
It's that case of like the football is great, the chances created are great, the play is great, and again, we can't finish our dinner because we need that position there. Don't get me wrong, Jamal Lowe looks good, but it's a case of we need that Ugbo poacher. We need that person in there that is gonna
box in the box.
Finish 9 out of 10 chances. Yeah.
I think for me as well, the thing is, I saw a lot of people give Josh Windass criticism saying he doesn't look the person that he signed. He's a big game player. Josh Windass is always one of those players when it comes to preseason. He treats preseason as what it is, preseason. It's like for minutes. He's not going to go full.
But we've also been saying Josh Windass looks sort of off the pace for the past season and a half, but he's shown up in big moments. So I think that was the argument that we were. I think he does seem to have lost a yard of pace.
He even said it himself.
But it's his game is like he pops up in the right moments. Yeah, and I'd say he's become a more intelligent player on the ball, and he's a little bit. He's got a better football brain than he had before, so that's sort of compensated for it in that way. But yes, he does. For the past season and a half, he has looked slightly off the pace, but if he keeps showing up in the big moments, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing I got as well is the players who I am really looking forward to seeing, and it's really cliche. I think the players who are going to improve a lot are the likes of Gassama and Masab. They already look better than when they were first here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. They look like they bulked up. They look like the more intelligent footballers now. They're not, last season they were like snatching at chances. They don't look like they're snatching now. They look like they're actually working it into position where they can actually take a really good chance. And I think you have someone like Jamal Lowe in there. You have Barry Bannon, Palmer, all that kind of the pros around them. It helps build 2 young players. Let's remember, like, Masabi 22, but still in that kind of early age, and you've got Gassama who's still only 19, and he get in there. And I think there were some really good signs in that game. And I thought when McNeil and Kadamarch came on as well, I think you were looking at our potential future front 2 if they can carry on and build on. And the thing is, I think a lot about this transfer window was building about for the future. It wasn't about the here and now with some of them. Some of them is very much we're looking down along. I hate to say this thing, Dex. It looks like there's a long-term plan. And it's something we've never been able to say before.
It always worries me, though, because the short-termism of Wednesday, like, it's great that there's a long-term plan, and I really hope we actually execute it, because the problem nowadays with a long-term plan in football is if it looks like it's starting to build, other clubs sniff around and they disrupt your long-term plan, and that's my worry.
Yeah.
But it is the right thing to do. It is the right way to build.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of people asking where certain players were as well. There was a behind closed door game on Friday. A lot of them played in that game. It was a 0-0 versus Rotherham. And by what I've been told, a lot of people played did well. But I think there'll be a lot of people saying, why have we had so many behind closed door games? And I think it's for Danny to see where they're at times, not for the fans.
Yeah.
And I think for the longest time, we have been quite poor at like showing people what we're doing when it's not needed. Like showing our hand.
They've got to be like open to making mistakes as well and building the play. That's the thing. So that's a big thing there. I'm still feel like we need a centre back.
I still think for me it's centre back, midfielders, and 2 strikers. I still think we need 2 strikers.
I must say though, Famio was really good in the testimonial.
I love. Did you see what someone said? What he said to one of the players?
No, I didn't.
About a tackle went in. He said, "Get up, you keyword," and then walked off. Really good to just see him in that kind of mode and going, I've had enough. He really does look like he's going to play that position really well as well. He's a player that looks like he's really improved. I thought Matt Lowe looked good as well.
Get up, you Rick, not the discriminator in it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was just saying, I hope you hadn't used that other one. Go on.
Yeah. And it was just really interesting how Matt Lowe looked really good and solid. I kind of worry for Johnson if he's going to get in this squad unless he's going to play backup more this season than anything else.
If that's the case, it means we're making progress because Johnson's obviously a good player, but if he's not starting for us, it means we've got better options, which is only a positive, really, Jake, isn't it?
Yeah. It's something we haven't had in a longer time. It's like, it was nice when Palmer came off as well. Excellent reception. And let's just talk about Palmer in general, because we have whacked lyrical about this bloke when everyone slated him and say he needs to go.
I will say that's the one thing on this podcast. We have backed him for the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Because I was somebody who always rated him even early in the days, you know. And part of that probably was I know it's the cliche, but he is one of our own. He's come through the academy. He's been at Wednesday for that long. He gets a testimonial. But then I was like, I would rather have players that are fully committed there. And he has always been fully committed. And the fact that it was quite fitting, actually, in the first season we started this podcast was the season we went down.
Yeah.
And I thought Palmer was exceptional that season, which is hard to say in a relegation battle, but people were still saying, oh yeah, he'll be all right for League One, I guess. So there was still that around him. And even when we were in League One and he was doing fantastically well, people were saying, well, he's not going to be able to cut it in the Championship. And he's consistently worked his way into every single manager's plans. Not always been the starter. Managers have come in and thought, oh, maybe it's timing, but he's always worked his way back in. He's become a quality player. And in the past couple of seasons, he's started adding goals and crucial goals to his repertoire. And it is that sort of smug, well, did tell you so sort of thing. It's nice to see it come to fruition, and I'm made up for him.
Darren Moore doesn't get enough credit for what he did for Liam, for me, because he looked a lot better under Darren. Darren got him making crosses. Darren got him running a little bit more. And I think his goal impact was more. And the thing is, yesterday he played in a midfield role that he was used to when he was coming through the ranks. And I don't think he looked that bad. And I generally think he's going to be one of the midfielders this season, not a centre-back.
Do you know what? His passes have got a lot more Bannon-esque.
Yeah, they have.
I noticed that yesterday.
Did you notice that when he did to Lowe?
Yeah, that's the exact one. It's where it's the no-look pass, isn't it? You feint the other way and you do it. And I was like, that's straight out of the Bannon playbook. That. Yeah. And if Parva starts doing that as well, that's...
If you've got two players who can do that in the team, that could be quite fun to watch. I think the thing is that what you got to remember with Palmer says how it is. He doesn't give no bull, and he'll put everything on the line like he has done week in, week out for the club. And he's always been one of those players that if you one of the things is, he's always had that old thing when he's ever seen so he's saying stuff that's not great, and he'll just turn around and say, "You ain't got out nice to say about me, just don't say it. I'm still playing football, I'm still here." And I thought the way everyone came out for him, I thought the mural that Millie got done for him at Park was superb. Take a drink. It's absolutely incredible, that mural. But everything just went in the right way. And again, a lot of people, when you had a testimonial, it normally means your career's done. It's nowhere near done. He's only 33 and he's getting better for me.
Yeah.
I think under Danny, it's just another level, isn't it, of where he sees him.
I think it's just a case of a great. It's been a great start, for everything and around players' potential coming in. Players that have come in are supporting our current players. We've got players, obviously, like shut up. We've got players like Palmer coming in and establishing themselves even further towards, obviously, their careers going into the latter stages. And it's an exciting season. And I might have seemed a little bit distracting there because I'm setting up an article for our next thing, but I was listening and paying attention, I promise. But
what did you think of the video package that they did with some of the former players?
I didn't watch it, and I know I've not done my job properly there, but I was like,
really good.
Apparently, it was really good. I haven't watched it yet.
I forgot what Kieran Lee sounded like. It was like, "Hey up, mate."
Is that your Kieran Lee? That?
Yeah, it's naff. But it was good. We'll get into what I was going to say a minute ago because there's a bit in the article in the show notes I want to touch on, which we've done. But it was good for it, and I think next week. This time next week, we'll be sat waiting to see what team sheet is, and it's exciting, but it come around so quickly.
Yes, and we don't have a striker. Well, we do, but we don't have the striker that we want. So it would be very nice if Ugbo is leading the line next week, which could happen. We'll talk about that a little later on. Yeah. So we're going to go into the news. We're going to start with championship news like we used to. We obviously don't have the championship review yet because it's not kicked off, but some wider championship news. This is from expressandstar.com. West Brom continue EFL relationship on financial matters but receive no plan. So there's been some EFL situations happening at West Brom, and the article reads as follows. The club have been working with Football League chiefs as they continue to try to negotiate financial concerns post Gunshan Lay's 8-year tenure at the helm of the Hawthorns. A report from Sky Sports claimed Albion have received an EFL-imposed business plan from which, quote, will limit summer transfer activity, end quote. However, the Express and Star understands that no such official plan has been received at the Hawthorns, and Albion and the league chiefs are continuing their 18-month relationship, working closely to help the Baggies steer clear of any possible future financial sanctions. Albion are working to remain within the EFL's financial fair play regulations, specifically current profit and sustainability rules. The Baggies lost 11 million in the latest accounts, and next set to June 24 will be far heftier. Albion will continue to sign players and attempt to remain competitive under new ownership group, Bilkul Football WBA. Shilin Patel's ownership group continue to bankroll the club, which has been losing £2 million a month since the Florida businessman's takeover in February. The club's challenge to that's talking about their rebuild plans. And they're talking about replacing the players that obviously they have shipped out, and they're doing all of this under restrictions, basically. So it's not it's not as heavy as it could be, but there is still all of that going on about, and we kind of wanted to include this in there going, we don't want to go down these paths again. So the fact that there's a long-term goal and things like that for Wednesday is,
I think the thing is
something we want to see, because
look at the transfer window, right? There's a lot of clubs who don't seem to be doing that much business yet, or it's very smart and not high figures. And even in the Prem, I think this PSR is really now starting to hit clubs and realizing, oh, we actually have to do something with this. And I think it's now starting to show that. I think since the pandemic, it's been a little bit of a thing where clubs have been a little bit smarter with what they sign and how they sign players now. Gone are the days of having the big transfers or big money move where their payments up front. Everything is now seems to be a structured payment plan because it looked better on the accounts. It's why Chelsea did 6-year contracts. It looked better over the account because it can go over many years.
Yeah. I mean, it's a dreadful business plan as well, because you end up then having a flop that's tied down for 6-7 years, which Chelsea have done. But yeah, there's a lot coming. Our financial fair play is obviously different to the Premier League's. So we just have to be cognizant that we aren't going to see the spending that Wednesday have seen in the past. And that's why there's been delays over certain transfers, and Wednesday have looked elsewhere when we probably don't pay players as much as we. And you know what? It's fantastic to see, because we're learning, and we don't want to end up in that situation that West Brom it's not too heavy, but it could go down there. Moving on to the Wednesday news, though. Oh, sorry, carry on.
I think a lot of people are thinking we are close to FFP because of how things are going, and I don't think we are.
No, I think it'll probably be a little bit higher with what we're doing at the minute, especially with like new contract for Danny. Other things along the lines, but it's a case of I don't think it'll be anywhere near what it used to be. And remember, we are allowed to make a loss. You've just got to not have excessive losses. So it's all about balancing that, really, making sure it's within what we can spend and looking towards the future and having players that will be resellable is the thing. Because if you end up in a bit of trouble, we've now signed Bernard on a contract where if Wednesday really do need to balance some books next season, and he has a great season this season, and we obviously don't go up or whatever, and somebody comes in for 6-7 million plus or plus add-ons or whatever, that can help clear a year of financial fair play if that shit. So at this level, that can be very, very useful. So that's why I'm happy to see what we're doing in terms of that. But moving on, the Star were reporting that Danny's been having one-on-one chats with the players over the Germany preseason. What do you think to that sort of individual approach with the players, Jake?
I think it's very much needed in these times where you don't. I think gone are the days where players will just be able to manage themselves and look after themselves and be fine. I think in an era where they get everything online, from the abuse to praise and stuff, I think it's needed to know where players' heads are at. I think you need to have that human interaction, not just on a football side, but on a human side, to go, are you okay? Is there anything we can help with? Is there anything you're struggling with the tactics? Is there anything that you're enjoying? Is there anything that you don't? And just be open and honest with it. And I think someone like Chris Powell is probably ideal for this. I think Henry is quite, if you look at the banter we've seen in some of the behind the scenes stuff, Henrik is very much a player, but also the drill sergeant when it comes to getting things right. And I don't think we're used to having that many coaches, and B, that many people who can come in and help and just speak. And again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, and I've said it a lot on this podcast. I still don't think people understand how significant it is us having a a psychiatrist in that backroom staff just to help if something's not going right. I just think it's ideal. I think
I think it's been crucial to a lot of what we've been about recently, and I think going back a little bit more to the direct sort of approach of Danny really wants to get to know these players individually, and I think it's a case of that will come into buying into the process long term, if he's got that one-on-one with the players. And it's obviously just a little bit of an opinion based off that story there, but to see, you can see it on the pitch, can't you? You can see, that those players are bought in, and that's from things like this taking time. And I'm just really glad he's got that time. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but it's the club doing the right things and a manager doing the right things, and it's nice to see.
It feels very weird and alienated for us to see it because we haven't seen it in a while. I think Darren did it to a point, but not on this big of a scale. And I generally think there's a situation where if someone gets out of line or something, they will literally, because they respect everyone around it, there's not going to be an issue. And I think the players will sort it out before it even gets anywhere close to being a manager issue. And I don't think we're going to have that because I don't think there's that many egos in this squad. They all seem quite in it for themselves, for the team. Like last season, when we first started, we were playing as a bunch of individuals trying to do things. It was like trying to get the glory and stuff. Even in pre-season, we haven't seen that. It's all been about that team build-up, that way of playing. And we haven't seen, like in the past, we would see like team bonding videos that the media team would put together where you see like a team bonding exercise. We haven't seen that because I don't think we need to see that because it's happening anyway. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It's we've obviously got a lot more media insight into the club and things like that, but you don't need. It's very obvious that the camp is in a good place, and I think you see that from players just coming in and wanting to be part of it as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Talking about that, though, and what the state of the current camp is, a player maybe on the way out of the camp, Darren Whitcoop, he's sort of PR and management. He's got a lot of stories on his Twitter feed. He corroborates sort of a story that Joe Cram broke earlier in the week that a lot of teams were interested in our young striker, Cadamartri. And he has tweeted, Darren Whitcoop, Wrexham have emerged as the front runners to sign in-demand Sheffield Wednesday forward Bailey Cadamartri on loan. So, with Wrexham comes more than just your usual sort of club interest, you would say, because there's obviously the television stuff around Wrexham. There's the story behind Wrexham, and there's a narrative that's built around Wrexham. So you could see why they would become the front runners for a player like Bailey Cadamartri. I will say now, you're not having him permanently. It's got to be a loan. But it's got to be a loan. But would this be a good move in your eyes, Jake, for Cadamartri to go to a club like Wrexham, newly promoted? They've got the heights, but there's also the pressure and there's the narrative and the story behind it. So there's a lot more to signing a player that would be becoming of, a usual signing that would go to a club. There's going to be a lot more eyes on him. Is that what there's obviously a lot of eyes at a club like Wednesday, but this is now international eyes and documentary eyes and the likes of that. Would that be something that you think would be beneficial for Cadamartri? Do you think he'd thrive in that environment?
I think for Cads in general, to start with, he needs to be playing week in, week out, which I don't think he's going to get this season. Like when he came in, he came in because we had a striker crisis, we had injuries, and then he picked up his own knock in January. So that didn't help. But I think if it helps him thrive in that environment, and I'm going to make it very clear, he's already thriving in a very big environment with Wednesday. For a 19-year-old to do what he's done last season is actually quite incredible because his record has done really well. But if you can put him in League One and he bags a load of goals and he gets that ability, and the thing is, you actually look at him during preseason, he bulked up. He doesn't look like a kid now. He looks like a...
Yeah, I was going to say that. He's done the sort of like, not quite the extent of the Ronaldo thing, but where Ronaldo disappeared and came back over the course of the summer with muscle and built and he's become more of a man in that regard. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think there's a part of me that famous like... The thing is, I say it's you have it as a season loan, but we have a recall in January if we won. Then if we see doing well,
I think that's pretty standard nowadays.
Yeah. I think we get him back in January if he's doing well and go from there. But I think it would be really good. And there's a slight documentary thing that might, you never know, highlight Sheffield Wednesday a little bit. That can't be not seen as a good thing, really, can it?
God, can you imagine a documentary behind our doors? That'd be interesting. I don't think that'd ever happen. But it's a case of, I think it's, for me, there's the question mark over their forwards and whether he starts, because they've got that loyalty to their forwards as well. Obviously, they've got Fletcher on the books, Mullin, they've got that Palmer, and I think they're going to want to make the step up with them. And for me, if Cadamarteri's going somewhere, he has to start.
Yeah, he's got to start week in, week, can he?
He scored 4 goals in 23 appearances, but we worked out that actually, if you base it off his minutes, he scored in the Championship. It was around 1 goal in every 3 games, wasn't it? And that was in his first breakthrough season in the Championship. He drops down to League One, having bulked up. A lot of those appearances were sub appearances, by the way. It's worth mentioning. He could go and do a 20 goal a season because he only played 23 games, and a lot of those, as we said, were sub appearances. So if he goes and he plays a full season in League One, he could help them get promoted. And that would be fantastic for us. It's fantastic for us either way, because then Wrexham are faced with a situation of they've fallen in love with this player and they're going to have to spend a lot of money on Cadamarteri. If he's a 20 goal a season striker in League One, I'm telling you now, we're going to be looking for upwards of 8 million to 10 million plus add-ons.
Also,
if he scores 20 goals in League One.
And just don't think it Wrexham looking. You'll start getting the likes of Everton and co Premier League club looking at him, who already have been looking at him. And it's like we said about Bernard. It's another sellable asset. I know people don't like hearing this when it comes to our players saying, oh, we've only just got him back or whatever. You have to have sellable assets in your squad. It's how football works. I know how people want us to keep players and stuff, but we have to start getting to the point when they're in that form, cashing in. There's a lot of Leeds United fans that didn't want them to sell Gray to Tottenham, but they may not get that again. You take it when you can, and then you reinvest it.
Cadamarteri is one of those players that could lead the line for a team like Wrexham. So if they sign him, he could really pull up some trees there over the course of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them want to keep him longer than that if he has that sort of season there. But that's a conversation for another time. Wrexham, if they're interested, if the deal's right for Wednesday, I assume they're probably going to pay the wages as well. It's a no-brainer for Cadamarteri to go to Wrexham, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right, Jake, I'm tired of talking about Sunderland because all of our players seem to be linked with all the players that we're interested in seem to be linked there as well. The Ugbo thing is a link to Sunderland. It might be a case of the fact that they're the agency that represents has got a few players already at Sunderland. It's a more of a familiar situation there. Do you feel... I feel like this is very close to Wednesday because we know Ugbo wants Wednesday. I feel like the deal is very close to being agreed with Wednesday. I think it's sort of a case of there's talk. I think, did Miller say in the Star that there's actually being a deal in principle agreed? It's just a case of ironing out some finalised stuff there. But Sunderland could try and swoop in, obviously, if that was the situation. He's a tested player for us. If you look at our pre-season, it's just waiting for him to get back in that lineup. He is that missing piece at the minute. I don't know if that's the way you feel about it, Jake, but for me, we've got to get this deal over the line this week.
There is an Ugbo-shaped hole missing in our front lineup, let's be honest with ourselves, because you get him in, and there were some people who said when we spoke about Ugbo, saying, oh, he's not as good as what you're saying he is, blah. He got his 17 appearances, 7 goals, probably would have got more of well if he didn't pick up that little knock. The thing is, with Ugbo, it's very, very simple. We have got an agreement in principle with Troy now, which is fantastic. We finally got him down from that stupid number. It's meant to be somewhere around 2.5 million, 2.9. That is about the right amount of money we all agreed on the podcast that he's worth. Really. Yeah. We said it around
I said up to 3.5.
Yeah.
So if that's with add-ons, you never know.
Yeah, so it's about 2.5 million between them. Now, here's the thing. The issue is that the way the payments are structured. Now, a lot of people are going, why are we not just paying it all up front and being done with? It doesn't work like that in football anymore. The days of paying payments up front are done. Like, a lot of clubs will have a payment structure to do it instead. Now, the thing with this is Troyes have got 6 million from a French club for one of their strikers. They've got 25 million for a player they sold to Man City. And they're now not a semi-professional football club. They got reinstated back to League 2 and League 2 because Bordeaux went bust. They are now reinstated back into their league, which changes the picture for them.
Isn't there something like... Isn't there something like also they I don't know if it's that club, but Bordeaux are actually owed money by Troyes or something for one of their players or another team or something like, and that's part of the reason they've not got the fighter. It's just, it's a mess that. But yes, that I think that actually, even though they did get, I think a lot of people are saying, oh, so that means Ugbo's not around. I think it could easily also be the other side of, well, he came to on loan last season, didn't he, when they were in that league? So maybe they're just not fancying it. And this is why you can think, all right, okay, we'll get the money for him and then we can invest in making sure we don't get relegated this season. And it balances things a little bit more for them.
Is Ugbo turned around and gone, I do not want to be here, kind of thing, because he made it very clear where he wanted to be. Like Alex Miller tweeted, all parties want to get the deal done, seem confident it will happen, remains. Deal it to sort, time is moving on, and other clubs' interest is there. But here's the thing. Players' terms have been agreed. They've been agreed for a very long time. Like, gone are the days where you had to do the transfer and then agree terms. Nowadays, it seems to be agree terms with the player, then get the transfer done.
Yeah, it used to be called tapping up that, but for some reason that seems to have just disappeared.
It gone, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It completely gone. But the thing is, Sunderland have, under the agency that Ugbo's represented by, they have Hume, Patterson and Roberts all on the books there, which does help them a little bit. But they're also trying to get a deal for, I think it's Mendy, who is currently at the club. Mbappe now owns 80% of. They're trying to get that deal done. Now, there's always been interest in Ugbo from a lot of other clubs, but how much of it has been genuine interest or Troy putting out there to put pressure on us or agent putting it out there to put pressure on us? The thing is,
It's also a case of the whole point Ugbo was a successful, Jake, is because he had the pre-existing relationship with like Masaba, and yes, he's a professional footballer. He'll develop into a squad and things like that, but he knows it's pretty much a guarantee that he's got his mate on the wing at Wednesday that feeds him, and he knows that. And he wants to go and play with his mate. It's like kicking around. It's like you're kicking around with your mate.
Yeah, And I think there was a lot of things where Sunderland fans have said, like, oh, Pervada and Ugbo. And Pervada did do well with Ugbo up top. There was some good footage that's shown how he did. But there wasn't as much creation as there was with Masabe, if that makes sense.
But what happens when Pervada gets injured in the second game and he's out for half a season and then he's not got that link up with Ugbo? So Sunderland, you might want to reconsider before you spend a lot of money on that.
I think this. I'm still very confident this deal's going to happen, but it got to happen this week.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't technically, but it should. We need it to go along those lines. We need it to happen. There's one issue
with it though. Ugbo's had no pre-season with Troyes. He's not been there,
which means he doesn't get chucked straight in unless he probably gets 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
The only thing I can guarantee that he's probably gone and done his own training himself.
Oh, look at fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're just going to make sure it's the right. Can you imagine what'll happen when and if this does happen? The fans will be really happy, but it'll be like, we then need to move on to the next person. Like, people have got it in their heads that Sheffield Wednesday have only been looking at Ugbo. No, we've looked at Soy Kabai. We've looked at other people outside of it that hasn't been leaked, kind of thing. Wednesday very much a closed shop with what comes out now. It normally comes out on the day of a signing now. Like in the past, how many times have we done a podcast that's been like 2-3 weeks where we've been discussing it? A player, because it's been out for ages. Gone are those days. It seems to be all happening on a day or day before, kind of thing. The only thing with this is it does feel like the Wilkes saga all over again. But with Ugbo, we had a try before we buy, so we know what we're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a no-brainer. Ugbo, come on. Let's not have a Wilkes saga. I'm tired. Let's just get it over the line.
Yes.
Another story, Alan Nixon has reported, this is about Cannon. So the article reads as follows: Vardy injury keeps Cannon powder dry. Jamie Vardy's injury is stopping Leicester City from sending Tom Cannon out on loan. And then reading a little bit later on, Sheffield Wednesday and Oxford have also inquired about Cannon, but are behind in the race. We're basically behind Sheffield United and West Brom. So Cannon is one of those that could be, you've put a pin in it until you see what Vardy's injury is, and he could be one of those deadline day signings. There's a possibility there.
I wouldn't mind him, but you're gonna nurse him. He's somebody who's had a back injury. He didn't play much for Leicester last season. I think he actually started, but he came off the bench when we got the 1-1 draw versus them. Because again, we spoke about Cannon last summer. There were talk of us possibly having a look at him. It would make sense, but it all depends on what goes on with Vardy and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I still think we need 2 strikers. Either way, I think he'll want to start, and if we get Ugbo, he probably won't start at us. So I reckon he'll possibly, because if I look at United, he probably fits United more. Yeah.
Saying that, I don't know very much about United because obviously I don't follow them, but I know they've lost strikers this season, haven't they? In the likes, and
they're just struggling to get
anybody over the line. Yeah. So they'd probably be more willing to have him as their starter, whereas we know Ugbo is proven. So if Ugbo signs for us, it makes sense. I just think he would be a good signing, but it's a difficult one for me because he's a player where the club will want him to play. And if you want him to play all the time, we're not probably going to play two. We probably won't play him and Ugbo up front. So
I have just realised the story that I forgot to put in. Pierce Charles could be going out on loan potentially as well.
We'll talk about that in a second then. But let's just finish off on Cannon then. So Cannon is a 21-year-old striker. He made less than 15 appearances in the Championship last season, so he's not had too much football. Because of that? Do you know how long the injury was for?
Yes, I can tell you. Hang on Transfer Marketplace. I believe it was from the start of the season till it was around November time. I think he missed about 45 days injury.
Right, but he only made 13 appearances, scored 2 goals, got 1 assist, and that's the same league we're in now. Yes, he only had 423 minutes, so
he missed 10 games.
But that doesn't account for the other.
You got to remember, he did better when he was at Preston, but it wasn't much. He had 20 games and 8 goals and 1 assist when he was at Preston.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. If he's only had 20 games and he scored 8 goals, that is fantastic. If you can get that Tom Cannon, then you'd take that. But again, it's for me, that's a case of, right, he missed 10 games with injury. That makes 23. What happened to the other 20 odd games? Just didn't get picked.
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't say to me he's a starter coming in, which I think Leicester would want him to be, because they'd want him to have that Preston form of, that is fantastic. 20 appearances, 8 goals, 1 assist. That is brilliant.
Think about it, it's actually very good.
Yeah. But if he comes in and is that player, that makes sense. But I trust Danny. If Danny's interested, yeah, but I don't think we'll be saying he's going to be the number one striker for us if we get Ugbo. If we don't get Ugbo, that's a different case. Whereas I think if he goes to the likes of the players that are interested, the teams that are interested, such as United, I think he goes there, to be honest.
If you look at our first team right now, like the actual team, we've got Beadle, Charles Hamer, we've got Palmer, Diaby, Iorfa, Valentine, Lowe, Femuel, Awitwe, Bernard, and Valerie as your defenders. Your midfield is Bannon, Windass, Johnson, Chalobah, Lowe, Ingleson. I still don't know why Lowe's a midfielder, but it what it is. And up top, you've got Wilkes, Patterson, Smith, Gassama, McNeil, Kabaki, and that's not how you say it, Masaba, Kadamatri. How much more do you think we're missing apart from Ugbo?
I do think we probably need another striker there. And I think if Sunderland are looking for a striker rather than Ugbo, there's this really, really young up-and-coming player called Malik Wilkes I think you should sign for £5 million. That he'll work really well with Jan Paveda. So sign him. But I think this would make sense in terms of we do need another striker after Ugbo. We need a centre-back, definitely. Yeah. Just because if Famio and Bernard could be a thing, but if Famio just does start having a wobble like he had last season, I'd be a little bit concerned. Diaby is a good. He's a good enforcer, and he's a good footballer, but he's just got too many mistakes in him, especially for a team that plays out from the back. So I want somebody a little bit more sure on that. We can't just have. Because also think about this, if Bernard picks up a knock or something, then you lose your best centre-back and then you kind of stitch in the defence together. And obviously we've got Iorfa and the likes, but yeah, I do want another centre-back. I don't think we need any more wing positions. I think we're sorted. I think the midfield is actually shaping up all right, especially when you've got versatile players like Palmer. Chalobah, I think, could be a signing. Right. That's fantastic. I think Ingleson could be a sleeping sort of... People are sleeping on it because of when I've seen him, I'm like,
so good.
Okay.
When I saw him in that Werder Bremen game, he was so good. He's gonna be one of these players that does really well and people like him, or he's gonna turn into the other people see what he does but don't rate him Pelopeti style thing. I think it can be one way or the other.
But because he's more of an attacking-minded player, I do think the former would happen. To be honest, mate.
The thing I got is, you say we don't need any more wingers, right? What happens if we're still in the running for, say, a Dembele?
Well, that makes sense because it pairs up. The reason I would say we're not necessarily interested, we don't need a winger, is because you've got Lowe, who is a forward but can play across the wing. You've obviously got Gassama and Masaba. You can stick Windass out there. You can stick Johnson out there. You've got players that can be versatile in those wing positions. Dembele would be more of a natural in that position. So yeah, again, I wouldn't be against it, because if you're looking for like two solid players that natural in each of those wing positions, then yes, Dembele probably makes sense still. So I wouldn't be against it, but I wouldn't say it's a priority number one. Priority number one is a striker. I also potentially think, this is going to link us into our next topic, I think we need to probably have a look at bringing in another keeper.
We have brought in one as well.
We brought in a young keeper, didn't we? Which might be our number 3 situation. But let's talk about that then. So, is Piers Charles going to leave Sheffield Wednesday? The Star have reported as follows: Sheffield Wednesday wait on decision after League One inquiry for exciting talent. The Star understands League One outfit Crawley Town have made an inquiry about taking the talented teen on loan for the season, but with Hamer out, he is now second to James Beadle for the spot in Rolls 11, and Wednesday can't really afford to let him leave. It may be that he still moves on depending on what happens now and between the close of the window, but if he's still at Middlewood Road come September 1st, he can still head out for more regular game time via emergency loans to the National League. What do you think is going to happen with Piers Charles? Because it's worth mentioning as well from the Wednesday website, Sheffield Wednesday have added young goalkeeper Killian Barrett to the ranks ahead of the 24-25 campaign. He's been really, is it non-league, really well rated, this player?
Really well rated.
And we've looked and took a gamble on him, which could be, again, a great move, especially for a 20-year-old goalkeeper.
It reminds me a little bit of when we got Sam Reid, and we are starting to do more things when it comes to non-league players, and I think it's something we needed to do for the longest time. Look elsewhere and bring them into our academy and see where we build them from there. Right. It's an interesting one on the Piers Charles. The what I think we should do and the what I want us to do are two different things.
Okay.
What I think we should do, I think we should loan him out. He needs to play week in, week out. I don't think his development gets any better with him being on the bench and playing cup games. I just don't. I think he needs to go out, get loans and play. Then hopefully next season you look at him maybe looking at a starting place in the squad. Because if you look at what Beadle's doing, they're the same age, but Beadle's just that bit ahead of him with where he is in Brighton's development and stuff like that. I think he got the ability to be Wednesday's number 1 next season if he goes and has a really good loan spell. What I suspect will happen is that they will probably see what happened with Ben, make sure his finger's healed, and it'll either be done on a deadline day or he'll go to non-league, where I don't think going to non-league is going to help him. He needs to go into a league club team where he can get the practice. I think somewhere like a League One team or a team who looks like they might just be going up from League Two is where he needs to be. I don't think keeping him here, unless you're going to be able to say you're going to play X amount of games, it's going to help him. I just don't think it's going to help. I think he needs to go out on loan. He needs to go have a loan spell, but we need to make sure that our backup keeper's injury is all healed and ready to go. And because it's his fingers, you need to just make sure it's got that extra bit of time just to make sure it's healed.
I couldn't have said that much better than myself, because I was thinking the same thing. It all depends on the Hamer injury. But for me, because you've signed Barrett, is it the new keeper? Yeah, because you've signed Barrett, he can sit in that Charles position. Charles can go and get a loan spell and become that player we know he can be. Get the confidence under his belt. It's now or it's not now or never, but it's now where he can really step up. And because we're not going to keep Beadle forever. The likelihood. So we might. That could be a thing. You know, if we get promoted, we could sign Beadle. But that's a big if.
I'm going to say that's a big stretch there, James.
Yeah, that's a big stretch. But actually having like Charles come through, again, you're talking about sellable assets, you're talking about players that can build, is good. I've been looking a little bit about Crawley, and I might need to be corrected in the comments because it's hard to build this, but from everything I can see, it suggests their current side plays a possession-based style of football.
They do.
Which, if they do, that is ideal for a player like Pierce Charles to go out on loan to, because it definitely means sort of like playing out from the back, the keeper using his feet. Exactly what we do. We play probably with a little bit more of a press. I wouldn't say we like to have possession, but we're not necessarily obsessed with it. I would say from seeing us, we're more about the intensity, but going to that sort of side will mean that Charles is developing playing out from the back, being comfortable on the ball in high pressure situations, real games, professional games. And I think that's what's best for him right now. He goes and does that. You sit Barrett on the bench and play him in the cup, give him a chance while Hamer's healing. And then when Hamer comes back in, he's our number 2, and we keep that. Oh, Barrett does really, really well, and Barrett stays the number 2. And sorry, Hamer, you've missed your chance. It's unfortunate. This is how the football game goes when you get an injury as a keeper. I think that is the ideal situation.
With Crawley Town, they have let go a lot of their current squad that got them up because they were on long, short-term deals. It's weird because Crawley Town are like owned by I think they're owned by like Bitcoin people, like cryptocurrency kind of stuff.
Interesting.
It was always interesting. It's like they were, but I think they had someone come and take over from it, kind of thing, to like take another. So I can't remember if they still are owned or they are owned by them, but it changed with how they do it. I am going to be very interested to see what we do with Pierce Charles, because if you actually look at what Pierce Charles does with his feet, he is actually, some of the balls he played during pre-season, they're banana from the back.
I'm really excited about him, so I want him to go and get game time. That should be the priority. Him going to get game time. So that's what I want to see for Pierce Charles, and I'm excited to see if we can get the best out of this. If we might have found a non-league gem. We don't usually do that, so that's exciting. But we've done the right thing with the keepers. We were stagnating on the likes of Dawson, and Dawson was never going to fit our system. Let's be brutally honest. I like Dawson. I had a lot of time for Dawson, but him and Wildsmith were not going to. They'd been at the club for too long and not pushed hard. They'd not pushed in hard enough. Whereas Pierce Charles, at his age, has already been talked about as he could be nearly there with a loan under his belt. Yeah. And whereas Dawson, we were like, he needs to keep getting loaned, and he never did. But we never felt comfortable enough putting him in properly, and then we only put him in the lower leagues.
Wildsmith had that just before he got that big injury. When he got that big injury, it all went.
Yeah. But we've got a player there.
Yeah,
and I want to see him going and get game time. Just before we end the podcast, obviously we'll be talking about not predictions specifically, but like how things are going to go in terms of week on week. The match talk's going to be coming back. The predictions for next week. The play by play. How are you feeling ahead of our opener next week against Plymouth?
I generally think we're ready. I do think we're ready. We are just missing that striker. I think it's been a fantastic preseason. The only thing that's lacked in this preseason, and it's something that you can't deny, is goals. There hasn't been enough goals scored. But we knew this was going to be something that if we didn't get a striker in before, and I mean recognised striker, I know we got McNeil in, but we didn't get like the Ugbo signing in before Germany, we were going to struggle. But I think we got all our business done nice and early, which is something we've dreamed for years, to get it done early so we can go into pre-season ready. We've had 2 very good pre-season camps, one in England, one in Germany. I think the one in Germany was crucial, and the one against Werder Bremen showed us where we're able to come back and have that ability to do so. You can see the style of play now. I don't worry about this playing out from the back now. I generally don't. It might change.
I still do.
It might change after
just
a couple of games.
Just because of what we were saying. Yeah.
It might change after a couple of games because the pre-season way of playing it, and then there's actually playing it in a game. The issue is, as Danny and the boys have said, you're going to have to let us make mistakes before it gets right. And I do think it will get right. But we're going to have the mistakes happen. But if it does seem to keep being a problem, we know Danny is not scared to change it. He did it last season.
No, and that's the exciting thing under this manager.
Yeah.
He's got a plan B. And I've not been able to say that for many seasons as a Sheffield Wednesday fan. We have a manager with a plan B.
Yeah, and
this channel for next week, the podcast and myself, we'll try and get all of the lads involved next week. We'll see what we can do on that, but we will. This is your place to be. So subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We will be here for the Plymouth watch along, and then it will be a podcast after that. There'll be plenty to do. Obviously, Jake will be doing his review, and he'll be doing the talks before all of that. We will try and give you, if you follow the Twitter at Talking Wed or you're in the Discord or the likes, we'll try and give you a little bit more of an update on where to find everything across these two channels. But me and Punk are going to be working really, really hard together to bring you the best we can this upcoming season. So as we get ready to go through it all over again, take care, guys, and we will see you in the next episode of Talking Wednesday.
See ya.